answer in a perfect dream.
Welcome to Starfish Speaks on WERE 1490. We're so pleased to be here to bring you information about resources in our community, current events in education, hot topics, and ideas to make parenting your special needs child enriching and hopeful. Hopefully you'll join us for our discussion today by calling 216-578-1490. We hope that Starfish Speaks just becomes an important part of your Sunday afternoon. So grab a cup of coffee and join us in the discussion. I'm Donna Gilcher, your host for the hour. I want to start out today by answering a question that came in from Angela through our website. And her question was, what does an educational consultant do? So at Starfish Advocacy, our educational consultants, we do different things. And so each educational consultant may be doing something different. But at Starfish, what we do is we help parents assist in identifying what services are available for their children. We work with the child study and the IEP teams and the 504 teams to develop appropriate accommodations in both public and private settings. And as an ed consultant, we often provide a voice for the child at the table. And so we are knowledgeable about those best practices. All of the advocates and consultants at Starfish Advocacy are trained educators. So we're familiar with how schools work, current legislation, specific needs of students with disabilities, and so we're able to provide resources to the teachers, to the parents, to the schools. That's why the schools love us. As an ed consultant, we also sometimes are able to be that intermediary for parents that are thinking, oh, do I need to go to take legal action or do I not? Sometimes, often about 80% of the times, they can invite us in. We're able to solve the problem, have the schools beginning to work collaboratively with the parent. So basically at Starfish, our goal is to walk with you as the parent. We walk through the process from beginning to end. We help you with understanding your school testing, provide parenting tips, support, strategies, hook you up with resources, basically whatever you need. So you can find out more information by going to starfishadvocacy.org, and that's STARFISHADVOCACY.org. Angela, thanks so much for a great question. I hope it answered your question. Remember, continue to email in. You can always contact us on the website. So let's begin. Today, I have some special friends in studio with me, the co-founders of KIDNection Group. So first is Jamie Hughes. She's a certified speech and language pathologist, a founder of KIDNection, and has worked at the Cleveland Clinic School for Autism and the Achievement Centers for Children in Westlake. Welcome, Jamie.
Hi, thank you for having us.
So glad to have you here. We have Elizabeth Radacci. Did I say it right?
You did. Thank you.
Thank God. An early childhood specialist and a board-certified assistant behavioral analyst. And she's been a long-time history of dance. She looks like a ballerina, those of you that can't see in the studio. And she's a teacher of ballet and music. I can't wait to find out how you intertwine all of those together.
I'm excited to tell you.
And we have Maria Lorena.
Urena.
Thanks for correcting me. She's been an occupational therapist since 1999. She splits her time between the Achievement Centers for Children in Westlake and the KIDNection Group. Throughout her career, she specialized in working with children and teens with autism. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, so we want you to join our conversation today. Please give us a call at 216-578-1490. Almost messed it up, guys, with questions. And if you've worked with KIDNection, call in, share your experience about working with them. So, guys, I got to start us off with, because it's like when I sit and I realized all of your backgrounds, because I've known Jamie for years. She's my go-to speech pathologist. If I can't figure something out, I got to admit.
Mine too. For my clients, mine too.
It was like the rabbi, the priest, the Sikh, and I was trying to figure out, okay, how does this go together? So how in the world did the three of you get together?
Should I start?
I think
Yeah.
you would be
Okay.
best for this story.
So as you said, I worked at the Achievement Centers, and that's where I met Maria because we worked together, and we would co-treat a lot in the classroom for children with autism. And once a week we would do a cooking activity with the kids, and we enjoyed that so much. It was a lot of fun, and we made a lot of progress. My life changed a little bit, and I went to work for myself, so I now own my own company, and I missed Maria, but we stayed in touch. Well, when I started my own company, I met Elizabeth, so with the families that I would see in the homes. So Elizabeth was, she's a BC ABA, so she would work with a lot of the families. And Maria and I stayed in touch, and we talked about how we wished we could still do this kind of activity, cooking with the children and stuff. We missed that co-treatment and all of that. So we decided, maybe we should start our own business together. And I said, I know a perfect person, Elizabeth, who could join us. The three of us could work together and utilize our skills and our to help the children. So that's how we did.
Okay, so tell us, how does this combination assist kids with autism?
The three of us work so well together, and I don't want to speak for the other two, but I know for me, I learned so much from the two of them. So I can come in with my behavioral background and kind of throw in my experience, and then, Maria will come in. So, I'm thinking, okay, we're in the kitchen and this particular noise goes off and it might bother somebody. Okay, so what can we do to assist the other kids who might have difficulty with that noise? Or, okay, this person has a hard time when there's too many choices out on the table. So how can we, give them maybe a smaller field to reference or what have you. And I kind of look at that, and then, Maria comes in with her expertise in OT and is thinking about how the kids can manipulate and use their fine motor skills appropriately, or the kids who have difficulty. She just helps us pay so much more attention to, how are they going to open something? Which hand are they? Okay, where's the elbow for this, that, or the other thing? And she's very specific about that. And then Jamie comes in with her speech expertise, and she says, okay, here's a perfect opportunity for some pragmatic language experience. And that's kind of how we do it.
God, you guys have sort of created a micro society for these kids as they come. And they've got everybody there to be able to, click in and fix it before it's a problem in the activity.
Mm-hmm.
That's our goal.
Yeah,
I gotta tell you,
it's fun.
You know what? That's
It's
a great
fun.
idea.
It's a
And
good-
you know what? I would never have thought that's why the three, three of you would get together and those three professions together. I was thinking, it's just a weird combination.
Yeah, no, it's
Triple
actually
threat.
a perfect combination. We cover
Yeah.
it at all angles.
Yeah.
I feel like we really get a good sense of the child by what we bring, from our experiences, what we bring into our classes, looking at it from our perspectives, our training.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like we can
Absolutely.
kind of help the child the best with being so comprehensive.
you know,
the
in
whole
how we
child.
look at
The
it. Yeah.
whole child, and
Mhm.
as a special ed teacher for years, that's what we look at always. We had to look at the whole child. All right,
Well, I just really quickly, I think it helps us to make our classes more inclusive. Because of Jamie, we can have kids in our class that might be nonverbal and have to use other means of communication. That's her area of expertise. So she can kind of give us some tips and pointers. Okay, here's how we're going to get this child to participate, or ask a peer to pass something, or what have you, or they're not feeling comfortable with this method, so we'll go this route. And you know what I mean? So
I do, and those nonverbal children are in society.
They are, and they
I mean,
deserve that recreational
It's-
experience.
Yeah, it's awesome. I just, you know what, it does. Well, you know what, we've got a lot of listeners that may not know specifically, what's an OT do? What's a speech and language person do? What's a behavior therapist? So I want to go in and I'm going to delve into some of that if you guys are okay. So let's start out let's first talk about the autism, because that really is an overarching thing. Mm-hmm. All right. And so we know that one of the key factors in the diagnosis of autism is language skills. So share with our listeners why language is so important.
Okay, that's for me, I think, because I'm.
It is for you, Jamie.
Being the speech pathologist here. Well, language affects communication, obviously, and communication is any ability of person to understand what other people are saying, as well as be able to express in language to other people. So it's a huge umbrella. If a child is diagnosed with autism, often their communication skills suffer in a lot of ways, and then they can't get their point across, and that leads to a lot of other difficulties, whether it be communication-based behaviors. We can't always guess what they want, and
I bet that's frustrating for a kid.
Absolutely. And then you often get behaviors because of it. So,
and then I'm assuming from the behavior therapist, a lot of times you're coming in and you're finding out that kids are actually getting punished for having a behavior because they're frustrated because they can't ask for what they want.
That and parents are often frustrated, and educators as well, because they want so badly to help the child, but the communication difficulties make that hard to do.
Right.
And what I have found, and this is why I'm so lucky to have a colleague like Jamie, and why she's always my go-to person, when I'm working with a child on behavior, a lot of times, I would say probably 95% of the time, it goes back to communication. It goes back to that inability to effectively communicate wants and needs. And not only that, the ability to say no to something. We all have that choice. You may have to do something anyways, but just to be able to say, I don't like this, I don't want to, or even the ability just to share what someone finds interesting. A lot of our kids lack that ability. And
so would that be expressive language?
Yes, and that's, yes, you're getting into what I'm about to say. Yeah, well, going into that, so, communication kind of falls under a huge umbrella of receptive language, your ability to understand language from other people to you. And then there's expressive language, your ability to express what you want to say to someone else. But then there's the pragmatic piece of language, where it's the social piece, and how are we going to appropriately communicate that to other people? So there's like 3 areas you kind of have to work on, and they're all intertwined, and they all work together, because otherwise, if you don't do it effectively, you end up with behaviors, and parents and children all have a lot of frustrations with that.
All right, so I'm going to come back to that social language.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be coming back to language because it looks like language is intertwined to everything.
Yeah,
but I really
absolutely.
want to make sure before we end up going to our first break that we get what each of you actually do, because then we got to delve into the meat. I got to tell you, I'm so excited to have the 3 of you decide to come with us on this journey. So, all right, Maria, you're an occupational therapist.
Yes, I am.
Okay, I have parents all the time say to me, my kid doesn't have a job. Why would they need an occupational therapist? So, what does an occupational therapist do with kids?
What do we do with kids? Well, we look at jobs or occupations as being what you occupy your time with that has meaning to you during the day. So this could be self-care tasks, being able to dress yourself, feed yourself, the activities of daily living, the things that you need to do to be successful, and just getting through with your day. The other thing we look at is play or leisure skills. So what do you do with your free time? How do you play with others? How do you find things that you like to do during the day? And then the other area that we look at is, play, self-care, is work, the occupation. Mm-hmm. Or for children, that would be school. So we help the child with school-related activities, such as learning how to write, learning how to do math, doing fine motor skills like that would help them be successful with art and other school.
Yeah, I was that kindergartner that actually failed cutting. I could not use the scissors, but the issue was I'm left-handed. Okay, so you take and give me right-handed scissors. They work backwards. They don't work upside down. Did you? I never knew. I got to tell you, for the longest time, we never knew why I couldn't cut. And then finally, I tell you, someone at Thomas Jefferson Elementary School finally, probably halfway through kindergarten, and they were talking about retaining me in kindergarten because I couldn't cut. It was a big thing. I didn't realize how important cutting is. And somebody came in the classroom and handed lefty scissors to me. It was like a whole world opened up. It was unbelievable, because then I could cut because they worked the right way. Right. But you know what? I have a feeling that probably an OT must have intervened at some point in that, because I know my parents had a big meeting with the principal and all the teachers. So it was probably one of those kind of getting together, let's talk about what we can do, and an OT doing it. But, I mean, something as simple as that, I'm assuming, could fix a lot of frustrations for kids.
Yeah, absolutely.
Making sure they had the right equipment and whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, so here we come. Now, let's go to Elizabeth, okay? So, B-A-C-B-A, it's almost like an alphabet soup kind of thing.
That happens to me a lot.
So, first of all, I want you to give us, first of all, how you went from dance and recreation therapy to BCBA and how they intertwine. As I sat last night thinking about it, I went, oh, wait a minute. Rules of games. I was sitting down. I had a list by the end thinking, oh, my God, that's actually a cool combination. But tell our listeners, how'd you get there?
Actually, those are all completely separate parts of my life that have diverged recently. My background is in early childhood education, like you said, and I actually was a classroom teacher for a few years. And then I moved back to Ohio, and I had a hard time getting a teaching job, and I ended up in a preschool setting teaching, and one parent approached me and asked me to come work in their home program. So that's where I started learning about applied behavior analysis, or ABA therapy. And so I gradually took on more clients there and left the classroom setting and ended up getting board certified as an assistant behavior analyst. And then all of my life, I have always been a ballet dancer. And at times, I've kind of left it and come back to it. And so in the last 4 years, I've come back to teaching dance. And a friend of mine would put on productions at a local theater company, and just recently left that and started her own ballet company, North Point Ballet, here in Northeast Ohio. It's based in Lorain County, and they perform in Cuyahoga County. And so I called her one time, several months before one of our performances. I said, gosh, you should do a sensory-friendly performance. And she goes, that's a unique idea. And so she started doing sensory-friendly performances, and now the tradition is that we have a special needs child guest perform in the special needs sensory-friendly performance before a performance run opens.
Oh, that's pretty awesome. Now, does this North Point Ballet actually have classes for kids that have disabilities and autism?
It is actually a professional company.
Oh, wow.
But
okay.
she is starting to get into reaching out to doing small classes before shows that are themed. According to the show, we draw from kids all over Northeast Ohio, different schools and stuff. But it's really nice to kind of see all these areas of my life come together and converge.
We call those starfish things. That's the starfish way, is how we do that. All right. So that makes sense. I mean, it coming together. So, I want to help our listeners. We have a lot of families that have kids with autism, and we know that. But we also have a lot of families who have kids that have characteristics or may have weaknesses or may have, they're just beating to different drums right now, that have not yet been identified with autism. I mean, when we look at the racial disparities and the research of racial disparities with autism, and we're going to be talking about that with Dr. Boyd and Ms. Everett in a couple weeks and whatever, kids of color actually are identified 4 to 5 years later. So they miss all this early intervention that you guys were talking about in the home and that kind of thing. And stuff. So if each of you could talk about what does a parent need to know about fine motor or about behavior or about speech to know is my child just a late bloomer? Is my child completely on target? Or does my child maybe have something that I need to be a little bit concerned about? I don't care who goes first, but who wants to go first?
If I could just back up just to the beginning of what you were saying.
Go for it.
In that we have found, although we do have a lot of children on the autism spectrum come to our classes, we have had a lot of kids over the years who have come through with other primary concerns like ADHD and other related diagnoses that have really benefited from our classes. And meshed in well with all of the kids. So I think sometimes because ABA might be a popular therapy for autism right now, or it's kind of taking the forefront in, I don't want to say the attention, but just awareness. I think that people forget that what we do is really helpful to
All kids.
all kids.
All kids that
that
just have some
needs.
exceptionality.
Right.
See, I was a behavior-based teacher 1,000+ years ago. And, there really wasn't. There was not. The ABA movement was not really that popular then, and whatever. But, we did behavior plans and all of those things to extinguish behavior or have replacement behaviors and things like that. But we didn't have a lot of we didn't have a lot of kids with autism. I mean, we had a lot of other exceptionality. So I think it is important, and it's important for us to know, and our listeners to know, that KIDNection isn't just autism. It's all disabilities. You want to be able to help with all disabilities and whatever. So we got about 4 minutes, so we're going to go to break. So who's going to go first and lead us off into break to give us specifically what does a parent need to look for?
So when they're younger then, or when
they're
they're
younger.
older or whatever, different ages.
How do we know? I mean,
Right.
I have one child, so
Right.
I don't have a sample child. And most, if you stay at home with your kid and whatever, or they hang out with, you don't know. Is it normal? Or is it not normal?
I think it's harder for parents of only children, actually, because they don't have the siblings to compare to often.
Right.
I think that can be more difficult
And
for the milestones.
Yeah, and
what you're looking for.
Yeah, that's really, I think, some of it. But, I got to tell you, if my kid doesn't sort of get along with everybody, I'm not going to, go out a lot. So
Right.
what do we need to know so that we can seek help?
Okay. Well, thinking about speech and language and what your child should be doing, I think at a young age, I think overall, don't underestimate your child. Don't think that they can't do it, or don't always, talk for your child. Expect your child to, communicate, and don't guess, and don't baby your child. You have to get them. Our jobs are to raise our children, but we teach them how to live in the world and grow up. So my big thing is, making sure that they are understanding what we're saying and able to communicate what they say to everybody, not just the families, but everybody. Get your kid out in public as much as possible, playing with other children, taking them to play groups, doing as much as you can to get your child involved socially with the world. That's the biggest thing you can do for them. And then you'll start noticing too, okay, my kid is not hanging out with all the other children, that perhaps my child is struggling with that. Don't shy away from that. If your child is a shy child and you go to a library program and your child doesn't participate with the other kids, don't stop going. That's even more of a reason to go more.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. At what age should a parent expect? And then we're going to be heading to break. So what age, and I may have to jump in on, what age should a parent expect that the child is able to understand what they're saying?
Okay, so understand, not just communicate it, but understand it too, or children understand at very young ages. Even 1 year old, they understand a lot what you do. Even 6 months old, so they should be starting to talk to you at 1 year old. And communicating thoughts and words back to you. So at 2 years old, expect them to be able to have. You can have little conversations with your children. 3 years old, absolutely.
Okay, so if they're not, that should be a red flag for
red
parents.
flag.
All right, so we're going to pause the conversation here for a minute. We'll be back after the break with more Starfish Speaks on WERE 1490. Remember to join the conversation. Give us a call, 216-578-1490.
When my landlord said rent could be cheaper if we were friends with benefits, I'd heard of sexual harassment in the workplace, but at home?
That is housing discrimination based on sex.
I'm legally blind. A landlord recently said that he didn't think I'd be able to take care of an apartment on my own and refused to rent to me.
That is also housing discrimination based on disability.
A real estate agent said that we'd be more comfortable living in a different neighborhood with people like us. Luckily, we know our rights. It's illegal to steer prospective homeowners away from or to certain neighborhoods based on race or national origin.
If you think you've been discriminated against because of your sex, disability, national origin, race,
banging, hammering feeling in your head.
36 million Americans suffer.
I started getting migraines around 5 years old.
Just takes over everything.
I feel trapped by migraine.
It hurts like my head's gonna fall off.
And the whole world around you stops.
My world has gotten small.
You feel like the world's closing in on you. There's nothing you can do.
I had spent a year housebound.
It's like you're trapped in your head. There's no escaping it. You can't leave your body.
Don't suffer alone. Make your move against migraine. Visit AmericanMigraineFoundation.org to find help, learn more, and get connected.
WERE Cleveland Heights, WENZ HD2, and WZAK HD3 Cleveland.
Welcome back. We're talking at Starfish Speaks, and we've got the Kid Connection. We're talking about speech and language, occupational therapy, behavioral therapy, recreation therapy. Give us a call. We'd love you to join the conversation. 216-578-1490. Or if you just want to call and talk with KIDnections because you've had some time and spent some time with them, give us a call. They'd love to. So when we left and went to break, Jamie, you were talking about what do you need to know to make sure, and you had said by 3 years old, a child should really be able to have a conversation back and forth with mom or dad or grandma and grandpa, and grandma and grandpa should be able to understand the conversation?
Mm-hmm. Yes, definitely.
Okay, so it's not a...
Right.
It's a real conversation. Yeah. I would like some milk or...
Right, exactly.
Okay, so if it isn't, then that's a red flag. Mm-hmm. So where would be the first place that you would say for a parent to go?
Well, often they always say, we got to go see your pediatrician, and the pediatrician would, see what's going on and assess the child and determine if the child needs any help. I will say some pediatricians have the wait and see method. Okay, so wait and see is, they'll just be behind, they'll catch up, it's okay. I am not an advocate of wait and see at all. If you find it in your heart or your gut that, geez, I take my children to play groups, but my child is not at the level the other children are at.
Okay, so even if we don't, because a lot of parents work, they can't take their kids to play groups, but they go and the pediatrician says, wait and see, and whatever. I know as an educator that we have Help Me Grow from birth to 5, and we have those birth to 3, and then we have Child Find, so school districts have to identify any kids that have disabilities. So a parent could continue to knock on that door. So they could call Help Me Grow and say, hey, I'm worried about my child. I think they need to have an evaluation and be able to do it and go in, even if the pediatrician says, just wait and see.
Yes, I agree. Or get a second opinion. Absolutely. And it's okay if your child needs help. I mean, parents need to understand that. That's okay. That, it can't be my child that has a problem. I don't want them to have a problem, so I'm not going to look into it.
So let me ask you a question, because you know what? That is something. I mean, a lot of parents wear that shroud of shame. We don't want to admit it, because if we admit it, then we have to maybe know that it exists and whatever. What would be the fallout or the worst case scenario if you know your child's having difficulty communicating and maybe you don't go and get some early help for them? I mean, does it matter?
Yes, it does matter. It can impact their educational career, and obviously with behavior, that is a huge impact.
So when they get to school, because all kids have to go to kindergarten, and if they are having a lot of language difficulties and whatever, I know a lot of kids, I can't even tell you how many kids I've been brought in on that are getting suspended from school as kindergartners or even from preschool. And it all goes back to language. It does. And so by not addressing it early, you could end up having a behavior problem, which then let's move to Elizabeth then.
Okay.
All right. So how would he know if our child is our child just bratty and, they're just a spoiled brat, or is there a behavior issue that needs to be addressed, refined, teaching them a different way to handle the world?
I think that parents know their children best. They're with them all the time, and they brought them into this world. So they know their children best. I think as a parent, if you can see that your child is showing increasing frustration when they try to communicate with you, and they start doing things like throwing things or hitting or kicking, and you feel, well, this is an attention thing, it's a good time to take a step back and ask yourself, is this because I'm not understanding correctly? It's not being communicated to me clearly? Then that goes back to an inability to reach the milestone, which indicates need for help in that area.
Okay, and
that's
so the
not a bratty
milestone,
child.
what's the milestone? Because, every kid has, every 2-year-old goes through the
Right, absolutely.
terrible twos.
Even 3-year-olds.
Right, and absolutely.
So what's the milestone?
So there's lots of wonderful milestones lists that you can access on the internet, Pediatrician, Help Me Grow, library. Things like an infant should be orienting themselves and turning their heads towards sound by a certain, I don't know, maybe Maria, you know better, like 6 months. Does that sound right? 4 months.
4 months, I think.
So that's a milestone. Reaching for something with an intentional grab because we're interested, but then coordinating some eye contact would come a little bit later. And then that would turn into a point because we start to see our parents pointing. That's another milestone. Creeping before crawling, before walking. Those are all milestones. Those are all things that kind of come together to let us know whether or not a child is developing typically.
Okay, so
And those are our
behaviorally,
clues.
so where behaviorally would we need to be concerned?
Like I said, when a child seems to be lashing out or having major tantrums, inability to control themselves, what a parent might consider like, oh, he can't control himself, those are behavioral issues. But a lot of times those stem from maybe sensory issues, communication difficulties. That's just my
All
experience.
things that could be fixable.
Yeah, or yeah. And I think it's important to remember, too, that communication isn't just verbal speech. It's body language, it's gestures, it's eye contact. It's all the things that we put together that as grown-ups, I think we forget all the things that go into just one communication exchange.
I tell parents all the time that behavior is the earliest form of communication. And you you literally just outlined it.
Yes.
Looking, reaching, all of those kind of behaviors for it are the earliest. So if a grandparent, because a lot of time, I got to tell you, grandparents are the first ones that really realize, if a grandparent recognized that, you know what, I think we need to look at something and whatever. Where would be the first place that a grandparent could turn to help a parent be able to even see if there are behavioral issues that need to be addressed or sensory issues that need to be addressed?
I would again go back to consulting those milestone lists that are easily accessible. Like I said, if you don't have internet access, which not everybody does, you could go to the library and probably ask a librarian for assistance in pulling one up on the internet, or perhaps they have a resource. A lot of libraries have wonderful resources for those kind of things. I think that would be a really accessible, discreet way to get that information and then be able to share it with a parent who might not know or feel overwhelmed.
So
to
for
find out
behavior issues, could they also contact like Help Me Grow?
I'm not sure if it has to be the parent of the child, though.
But the family of some sort.
Yes,
so they would be able to.
Absolutely,
all right.
yes.
So,
yes.
OT now. Feel like I'm going around on the gunnery. So here's with OT. How would a parent know if their child is having a problem?
Well, if they're not able to do some of the things as far as self-help, and I know when you're young, there's not you're still dependent on your parent to help you.
So at what age should a child be able to hold cutlery, hold a spoon or?
Oh yeah, by 2 you should be able to manage a spoon and a fork, a cup. Toilet training, you should be at the early stages of toilet training. By 3, you have interest in toilet training, you're trying to stay dry. A lot of, preschools require that you are toilet trained before you can enter their programs. Assisting with dressing and fully dressing. By age 5, you're starting to tie your shoes. Those are just some of the milestones.
Okay. So if by 5 years old, my child isn't at this point, and it hasn't been identified with a disability, it is not toilet trained, I should be concerned. If they're not able to get themselves dressed and whatever, and we're not.
I would say sooner than that.
Probably even sooner.
Kids
Sooner
start,
than that.
Kids start helping
by
with
3.
dressing.
Those
You know,
by
by
3.
three.
So if by 3 we're not seeing some of that, that may be a red flag for us to think, okay, we need to jump in and do something.
And then you need to think about, is it their fine motor? Do they not have the strength? Do they not have the cognition to do it? Is it a sensory issue? And they are very sensitive to certain textures, and they don't want to brush their teeth because of the toothpaste. They don't like the way clothing feels on them, so they're not helping to get dressed. Toileting, it can be a big sensory issue. They don't want to sit on the toilet. They don't understand what is happening to their body. They don't want to be messy. There's so many different things that could be affecting their ability to learn these self-help skills at those young ages. And again, to not be able to communicate something like that then makes it even harder.
I would like to point out too, the 3 of us came together to do KIDNection's group, and we've talked a little bit about how well we complement and work and learn together. Usually when you see a team of people for a family, it consists of a behavior therapist, a speech therapist, and an OT. These things are so intertwined, these milestones and the things that we do. Jamie does speech, but as a behavior therapist, I can't ignore that a child can't point or gesture appropriately to make a request. So the requesting is a behavioral skill, but I have to bring in some of that communication.
Right. And when I think university hospitals, Metro, also Cleveland Clinic, I think all of them have a pediatric department that has some of those disciplinary specialists and whatever.
So it's a good thing for parents to look into and to reach out to everyone and get assessments wherever they can, to rule out things that may not be an issue, or to discover things that may be an issue that they were unaware of.
And I think one advice I would give parents, like who have young children and they don't know what their kid can do when they're 3 years old, I always say, take a step back and let them try. Let them try to put their shoe on. Let them try to get dressed. Don't do everything for your child. Let's see, because if you don't know where your child is in terms of what they can do and what they can't do, it's probably because you haven't given them the opportunity to try.
So it's okay for me to let my 3-year-old fail.
Yes, yes. Because how else would you know? And you have to have the list to go back to, and and sit there and say, oh, I never knew that my kid could actually do that by themselves. Well, you got to let them try. That's our job as parents, is to teach and then back off and let them do it independently.
Well, I'll tell you, the one thing that I do know about, because a lot of years ago, there was, you could go to the book hour and you could go to the library and listen to story hour and stuff. And most of those happened during the day. But I could tell you, there are libraries across the city that are doing evening story hours. And so I would look into those. Cuyahoga County Library, I know, has a lot of activities, and they are free. So all 3 of you have said, get your kids out with other kids. Let's see you can see what other kids are doing. So, here's a plug to the Cuyahoga County Public Library. They're the greatest resource, I think. Honest to God, I think they're the greatest resource in Cuyahoga County. All right, so we've talked about all the disciplines. We got all of that, and I think we know what we need to look for now. So here we go. I want you to tell me about your classes. So what are the classes you're offering, and what do you do there?
Who wants to go?
Well, we offer adapted, specifically cooking classes. We started out offering several different classes.
Yeah, why don't you start about... Yeah, let's talk about where we started.
We did games classes. We did, we've done DIY gift classes. We did just we did a Lego class. We've done
seasons classes, parties.
Yeah.
And it turned out that the cooking was just what people kept coming back to. It was the most popular, and the kids loved it.
Everybody loves to eat.
Well,
sure.
But when you consider our kids, though,
and to cook, really,
yeah.
they like cooking.
Despite we have a lot of sensory issues, texture, taste, smell, gag reflexes, but the kids still liked it. And I think they just liked that they had an environment where they could come in and do things they saw their parents or other people doing, and they could do it themselves, and they had an opportunity to do it in just a safe space with peers where they felt like they could make a mistake and someone would just help them keep going through it. We very rarely have too much opposition to what we want the kids to try
Now,
to do.
Your cooking classes, are they only for children with disabilities? Can kids without disabilities attend them and be peer models?
Actually, they can. We all have children of our own. So occasionally we bring some of our children who are a similar age. If we feel like they are a good match, we will bring them into our cooking classes. We've also offered it to siblings of some of the children that have been in our programs, and we open it up to students. It's hard to find typical peers a lot of times for our classes, but we are definitely open to that.
All right, so this is a call out.
Yeah,
it is.
You can you can bring both siblings. You can bring the kids and get that. So because you know what, and cooking really is a way of, I always say, you come together, you break bread together. It builds relationships and whatever as well.
That's exactly it. And if I can speak on that. So what is cooking? Cooking is an activity of daily living. When these children get older, they've got to be able to cook for themselves.
Absolutely.
Okay, so they're learning that, and they're using all the fine motor skills that Maria works on with them in the classroom. And then for speech, such a social thing. Cooking, eating, and going. What do? We go out to dinner with friends to talk, right? That's our thing. And that brings in the communication, the social part of it, and there's so much involved. So this is going to be something that's lifelong for these children, but also good for them right now. So this is kind of why we were sitting, and then and on the idea of behavior too. In order to cook something, you basically have to follow a recipe. You have to understand things. You have to have good behavior, right? You can't be throwing the sugar around, which we've had happen. And the flour and making a mess. I mean, we're dealing with cooking supplies, knives, even. You got to have good behavior.
So it sounds like you're teaching safety.
Safety, hygiene, right? Safety, hygiene. Use of appliances. They're learning new foods, like they said, new textures, how to prepare foods. So much stuff.
All right. So here's a question: where do parents find out about this? We got about a minute and a half till we have to go to break. So if a parent wanted to sign up for a cooking class, how could they find out about how to sign up?
www.KIDnections Group. That's KID, K-I-D, Nections, N-E-C-T-I-O-N-S, group, thekidnectionsgroup.com.
So do they put the in too?
They put the the.
Okay.
We didn't drop the like Facebook. So.
Okay, so it really is THEKIDNECTION
S group, G-R-O-U-P.
GROUP.com.
Yes.
Long title.
I know.
All right. And on that website, they'd be able to find out about courses. Are you guys doing classes this fall?
We have classes each month until November.
Yes. All right. We're heading to break. And when we come back, I'm hoping the board will line up. Let's give us a call, 216-578-1490. Thank you. And we'll talk to you soon.
Something of believing up in everything.
WERE Cleveland Heights, WENZ HD2, and WZAK HD3 Cleveland.
Hello, this is Donna Gilcher of Starfish Speaks. Join us every Sunday, 1 to 2 on WERE 1490 to discuss hot topics in education. We will talk about resources in the community that address the needs of children with disabilities and enhance the lives of parents and much more. So join us every Sunday, 1 to 2 on WERE 1490 for Starfish Speaks. If you have a question, we have answers.
Sunday is a special day at Cedar Point. Why? Because Cedar Point is offering free admission for military and first responders. It's all part of a day of deals in appreciation for your service.
tax relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Everything you need to know about Cleveland sports, news, weather, and more is at newstalkcleveland.com. For instant updates, follow us on Facebook at newstalk1490 and on Twitter at newstalk1490.
Welcome back to Starfish Speaks. We're speaking with the KIDNection Group. If you're listening, please give us a call. 216-578-1490. We're here on WERE 1490. And when we left, we were talking about the classes and where to get information about the classes. So give me a little bit more information about the classes. So how would a parent know if their child could benefit from the classes?
Well, we offer recreational programs for any child who is having problems with social communications, making friends, just the quirky, kind of awkward situations where he doesn't quite fit into more typical recreational programs. So they're looking for something that would be a drop-off class where they could learn some new skills and also have some peers to socialize with.
Wait, there's a key word for families of kids with disabilities. that you just had a key word, a drop-off class.
Yeah.
So a parent could bring their child, drop them off.
Leave and go shopping.
Go to Starbucks, have a couple hours to themselves.
Mm-hmm. And we're hoping the kid would make some friends, learn how to cook, do some fun stuff. And,
our ratio of staff to child is low. There's two adults, two children per adult. And it's the three of us who, we've been doing this for years.
What age levels?
When we started our classes, we were working with the younger students. And then we discovered that there was not as much of a need. There was more demand for older student classes. So we are now serving ages 9 and up, with our most popular ages being the teens.
Oh, because of transition.
Yes, transition.
Yes,
absolutely.
Middle school age.
Yes, where they're starting to,
and learning those functional skills. It's it actually fits really well with what we want to address in our classes. Teaching independence and how to make friends and how to keep friends and learning to, cook for yourself.
You asked how does a parent know if our class might be right for the child. And to be honest, just shoot us an email or give us a call. Our email address is on our website. And Jamie, what's the phone number if a parent wants? A lot of times that's what parents do. They just call the phone number and start chatting with
So how would
Jamie.
they contact you by phone?
With me, 216-262-8163.
And we'll make sure to put that on our website, too, to make sure to have that.
And you will get me,
well.
the speech pathologist, to talk to you.
The start of everything is the language.
It's always language.
If we're being honest, sometimes parents decide, not yet for my child, and they come back to us a little later, or sometimes it's right away, a good fit. It's kind of a mutual decision. We say this is what we can offer, and this is what the class looks like. We have to consider all of the students that are in the class.
So we know you're doing cooking classes this fall. Do you ever do any other kind of classes? You had said before you had some, party classes and you had, different dance. Because I got to tell you, I'm working with a couple of families that dance. They would love to do dance. Yeah. And unfortunately, because of the communication, language problems, it's sometimes difficult for them to be able to go into a traditional, ballet.
Yeah. Well, Maria and I were really excited about doing a music and movement type class. But unfortunately, there wasn't a whole lot of interest. However, we were very new at the time. And so I think all three of us are hoping that, just getting our names out there, we can start to offer some other things.
So let me ask you a question.
Although we do love the cooking.
Let me ask you a question.
Sure.
So, do you ever do surveys on your website of saying, hey, we'd like, we're looking at offering this class. I'm assuming if you could get 5 or 6 kids together to do it or
and we've done parent surveys before.
Parent surveys?
At resource fairs and...
Well, I was going to say, so we need at least 4 kids to run a class.
Okay.
Okay. We max out at 8. And we just have another helper if, we end up having, so we can keep the ratio low. But we have on our website, there is a survey you can take. It's a link to it, and it will ask you questions on what kind of classes would you like to see, what age is your child, when would you like the classes offered. Right now, we're on Saturday mornings, once a month. We rotate the Saturdays, so if every month, first Saturday of every month, say a parent works and they can't take their child, just wait till the next month. It might be on a different Saturday, and you could bring your child.
Wow. So it really sounds like the KIDNection Group really wants to be responsive to whatever the needs are within the community.
Yes. We will open a class if there's enough interest.
So where are these classes held?
North Olmsted Recreation Center.
Okay.
So probably we try to make it as local as we can. So real close to the mall, but also if they bring their other children for like a swimming class or tennis or whatever, they can also have their child who has a need to come to our class.
So now, if you live on the east side, are we still allowed to go to the classes?
We have some Eastsiders.
Yeah, we have had people travel from East.
We have some Eastsiders. Sorry.
Yeah.
And we also offer cooking birthday parties.
Oh!
So we can.
So we will go to your home.
We'll go to you.
Yeah.
So, because that's like a one-time thing, right? We're not doing it like every single month or every.
Oh, that's great. So if my child wanted to do a cooking class at the home, or my kid's Girl Scout or Boy Scout troop wanted to do it for badges, you guys would come and because there's a couple of there are a number of people that have they have sort of disability
right.
packs
Again,
and
they don't even
stuff.
have to have diagnosis. Sometimes it's they just need some extra.
But you would come to the house and do that.
quirky.
Well, how do they find that?
On our website as well. So we have all the information for the cooking classes and everything, and even our questionnaire for when we have the children. It's a very lengthy questionnaire, probably 10 pages. So
All right. So we have. We're going to open up to callers.
Feels like
we have. I think Susan on the line. Can you tell us where you're from and what's your question?
From Florida, and I would like to know how old should you be before you start physically abusing your child?
Excuse me? I think they got disconnected and whatever. I'm not sure what they said, but really there should not ever be. I think they said something about physical abuse. Really, there should never be a time that you're physically abusing your child. So that would not be part of it. I think with the temper, and it may have been going with the behavior stuff and stuff. So do you ever educate parents on different ways other than physically trying to control a behavior?
Our behavioral approach is about strategies that you can implement in your home or classroom, because I do consult in classrooms, to help a child be more successful, to help them behave in a way that they can successfully participate in their lives. So a lot of times we use visuals, we use verbal prompts. You might use a physical prompt when trying to teach a child, say, to tie their shoes. Here's how you put your fingers and that sort of thing.
A physical prompt, though, would be different than hitting
like,
or...
here's how you make the bow, and I manipulate their fingers. That's hard for some kids,
Right.
Or if I'm trying to teach a child, how to open something or, physically have to manipulate their hands. But a lot of other things that we do, I find just giving a child warning about what's coming up. I think adults forget we know what's happening the whole day. Kids don't know. And so when you have a child with high anxiety and they don't know what's coming, they start to feel out of control and then behaviors crop up. So here's an example of behavior source of unwanted behaviors being not communication.
I got to tell you, I know adults that do that. If I don't know my schedule for the day, or if people throw things in, it sometimes causes me some anxiety too.
You think like a 2-year-old, how do I communicate what's coming next? But there are strategies. There are. And even kids as young as 2 or 3 feel that anxiety when they have no idea what's coming in their day and they don't know what to expect. So, those are things that we do from the behavioral end. Lots of prepping the kids and providing parent strategies for helping with success.
All right, so we're getting ready to wrapping up, and we always like to end our conversations with what's your best thought. So, what would be your best thought, best idea for a parent? Give us the tip. The number is 216-578-1490 if you want to get in and give us a call in. We've just got a few more minutes before we end, so I'm starting with you, Maria. Your best tip.
My best tip. give the child the time to practice some independence, find the things that the child loves, and go from there to help them learn some of these independent skills, and give them the confidence to find enjoyable things in their life.
Go for it, Elizabeth.
My advice is to remember that you know your child. You are their first teacher, and you have good instincts, and you know your child. So go with your gut.
All right.
You're going to have to repeat that question.
Your number one tip to parents.
Number one tip. Okay, sorry. So much. Well, let's see. Children are definitely a gift, and we want to help them the best way we can. And to do that, I think offer them as much as you can in terms of letting them communicate with you to everybody.
So talk.
Mm-hmm,
All right.
Absolutely.
We have a caller on line 1. Our first caller is, yes.
Hi, my name's Kalita Hassan, and I live in Avon Lake.
Hi, Kalita. How are you?
I'm well. I wanted to just let you know my family has worked closely with the KIDNection Group, and they've been great help with my son, who's 13, going on 14 with autism, and he really enjoys and looks forward to the cooking classes every month. He's developed on a lot of skills that I didn't even know that he would have working with the program, and he really enjoys cooking. He might not always eat everything, I've been told, but he's always there participating and involved.
Clarissa, I have a quick question for you.
Sure.
Any of the recipes they've made, have they done at home?
I've tried some of the cookies, and we've tried some of the smoothies, things that are easy to do.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Well, I'm hearing the music playing. I can't believe,
Thank you
guys.
for calling.
Thanks for calling. I cannot believe we've gone to an hour. You guys have to come back. I don't know if that's something you'll do.
Yeah,
we would love to come back. Thank you so much.
Unfortunately, the lines are starting to line up, and we're not going to be able to do it. So I want to thank everybody for joining us today. Remember, we are here every Sunday. Starfish Speaks at WERE 1490. So we'll leave it with directions and hope to see you next week.
Thank you.
This is a paid program brought to you by the Knights of Columbus Council 733. The views and opinions expressed are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of this station or its management.
Love plus love equals love. You plus me equals you and me. Faith, hope and charity. These things will remain. To hear the song on the radio would move me. To hear the song on my favorite show